We're here on page Yud Aleph, on the top left, and we're talking about some. So it means she found a stain on some sort of a cloth, and the question is going to be exactly where she found it. Because the Rabbanan said that Samim is Tameh, even though there's no Hargasha, meaning on a Deraisa level, it would not be called Tameh because Dam B'Psara has to be B'Hargasha. She didn't have any Hargasha. But if we can determine that this Dam came in a Makar, then even in the absence of Hargasha, she is Tmei. He says here, we have to always assume that this cloth upon which she finds the stain is somehow connected to her private parts, meaning it's not that she found it on some other part of her body. Okay, so now, which part of her foot did she find it on? Because we always have to assume that if she has a kesem, it's only tameh because there's a likely possibility that it came from the makar. So he says the following: Mi bifnim tmeh. Okay, what's the opposite of mi bifnim? We'll see in a minute. So the dam could have come out of her makar and gone down to her feet. Achim nimsa dam al bisara milamala may also makar. O nimsa al raglel litzad achutz. See, the opposite of dam al raglel bibifnim is al raglel litzad chutz. So I guess you can imagine. What's this called? The bicep. What's it called? This part of the leg. This part. Does it have a name to it?
The calf.
Yeah. The calf. Right. So if she found it on her calf, so like if you're standing vertically, right? So something's coming this way. It's not going to end up on your calf. So that's called tzad ragleha mibachutz. The other example they give, which is a lot easier to understand, is where she found it on the top part of her body. So the dam couldn't have gone in an upward direction because that would defy the law of gravity. Because things move down and not up. So basically, if we can find a kesem in a way that we can exclude that it came from the makar, so circumstantial evidence becomes very important. You know, we have to look where the dam is and where she found it, and then we have to ask ourselves, well, is it reasonable that it came from her makar? So if it's, let's say, raglea mibachutz, then we say it came from the makar, or at least there's a good chance it came from the makar, therefore it's a kesem and it's tmeya. If on the other hand it's on the tzad, so that's beraglet tzad lefnim. If it's on the tzad mibachutz, then it's very unlikely that it came from the makar. And so too, if it came on besara milamala min makar. Now, what does he have here in the notes? I'm just curious. Kuf pei ches, kuf pei tes. So we'll go backwards. First of all, kuf pei tes, he tells you it's a Mishnah on Daf Nun Zayin Amud Beis. The Gemara is going to go into great detail about which places on her body she found the dam, which are tmeim and which are tahorim. And in kuf pei tes, he says, Hainu hamakomos hanivdokim Zeba zebi eshet tamod v'tivdok regel v'regel v'shuk v'shuk. So apparently he quotes a Rambam who says that mibifnim, when it says here al ragleh mibifnim, it means different parts of her body that would connect to each other when she stands, so that the dam would come to those different parts of the body. So again, he's trying to work out the circumstances that it indicates that the dam would have come in a mok. Even there is a far out possibility. Again, statistically, I would call it, I don't know if it's 2%, but there is a possibility that she actually had a contact with the dam in her hands, and then she scratched her body up above, and the dam was transferred over to that part of the body. So the Gemara establishes that we're not assuming that Tumah moves from one place to the other, even though there could be a human being that moved the Tumah. And this is a principle, if you're familiar with kan nim to kan hayu. It's wherever we find it, that's where we assume it came. And we don't start, letting the imagination get the best of us and thinking of all sorts of possibilities. So he adds here a shtickle Torah from the Aruch LaNer, which you'll see here quoted in Kuf Tzadi Aleph. So I think what's going on here is a kind of svek, but it's not really a svek. I'm just using that term like the saber to ozen. I think it's what you'd call a reisa. Are you familiar with that term, reisa? Because whenever you have an assumption, you can always question that assumption. The classic example would be you checked out the mikveh and it has 40 saw, so it has enough water to be a kosher mikveh. Then somebody went into the mikveh. That creates a reisa because when a person goes into mikveh, he takes some of the water out with him. It's on his body. And if you had just 40 saw, now we begin to question the chazaka. So whenever we question our assumption, our chazaka, it's called a reisa. And the Aruch LaNer wants to say that you could create one single reisa on a chazaka, but if you're going to have to combine one reisa with another reisa, A plus B, that's not a reisa. And then we go back to the original chazaka. So we have a chazaka, kan nimsa kan haya, that wherever the dam is, that's where it was. Now you're putting a reisa, but maybe she took the dam from one place and transferred to another place. So the Aruch LaNer says that requires a double reisa, because we don't know that Bechlal she had any contact with this dam. And now on top of that, you're going to say that she took the dam from here and she put it there. That's another raise. So you need, to get to your goal, you're going to need a double raise. So let's read it inside. He says, Ein chosheshin l'shtei sfekos. There's a printing mistake. It should say, Ein chosheshin l'shtei sfekos ke'achas. No. Oh, no. Maybe he means you have to put a comma after the word svekos. That's better. Put a comma after the word svekos. Ein choshin l'shtei svekos. Achas, number one. Shegia dam liyada. We don't know that she had any contact. Right? Like for the Gemara, I hate to give this example, but the Gemara has some psachim that you actually saw after you put all the chametz in one pile, you saw a mouse pick up the chametz. So you already know that the chametz was in contact with the mouse. But here in the case of a woman, we don't know that she had contact with the dam. Vasheni, in the second suffix, is higia miyada legufa. And she took the hand after she had contact with the dam and she wiped her body with it. That's another suffix. I mean, the language here seems to indicate svek. If you have to build one suffix on another, that's not considered a suffix. But I think it, again, I don't have the Aruch LaNer in front of me, but I think his logic is that you can't put one race on top of another race and defeat the chazaka that kan nimtza kan hoya, that this dam originated here and it didn't come from the Mokkah. Okay, so now we find dam on our body, and now we're going on to another case where we find dam on our garments. וכן הדין ונמצא על בגדיה. Okay, שאם נמצא למטה מן החגור טמאה, ולמעלה מן החגור טהורה. I'm not sure why the emphasis here is on the chagor per se, but he quotes a Rashi here in the footnote that the chagor is actually the bottom part of her panties, if you call it. It's keneged oso makom. I thought the chagor was like the navel, you know what I mean, where you have the strap around your stomach. Oh, look at that. The Sidri Tara says it's keneged atabar. So then I don't understand why we're putting all the emphasis on minachagar lamata, minachagar lamala. You follow what I'm saying? Let's say from her makar up until the chagar is a couple of inches, right? So why should that be considered tameh? Because again, you're going against the law of gravity. Unless maybe it means that since it's the same garment, so the dam gets mishkabab, it goes from one part to the other. Sometimes the garment is up, sometimes it's down, whatever it might be. Again, when it's dam on her begadim, we're going to investigate where is this beged? Where is she wearing this beged? Is she wearing it on her lower parts or on her top parts? Now, what I want to know is what happens if she finds dam on, let's say, okay, let's say a woman is wearing slacks. I don't want to get into the issue of whether women are allowed to wear pants. Well, let's say she's got, what do you call it? When you go to the gym, what do you call those things that you wear? What do you say?
Tracksuit.
Tracksuit? But let's say she wears a tracksuit. I don't want to get into each. And she finds dam on the tracksuit, which is the pants that are below. Is she tameh or not? Because he says, minachagor lemata tmeya. Does that mean any beged that she wears that's physically minachagor lemata? That's what I think he's saying over here. I can't prove that. I don't want to be machmir here, but it could be that that's enough to be considered minachagor lemata. Or does it mean minachagor lemata on that garment that covers her body? I don't know.
Can I just ask a bit?
Yes, sure.
Here that, before we looked, the question was found on the leg, but if she's wearing some kind of undergarment, found there as well.
I mean, how did it get to her leg if she was wearing undergarments? How could it skip over the undergarments? So maybe her undergarments were lost or they were already washed in the laundry. But let's say in your case,
wasn't wearing them. But
right?
Here
but if she was wearing undergarments and they weren't cleaned or removed or any of that, and she finds dam on her leg and nothing on the undergarments, that I believe that she'd be tahor. Because again, we're only analyzing this from the perspective of what I call circumstantial evidence. Sometimes in halacha you have gedar, it's defined. It's either this or that. Like when we spoke about the categories of adom, of dam tameh. It's categories. Here, I don't think we're dealing with categories. We're looking for all sorts of indicators to derive the conclusion that, it's very feasible that this is dam min hamakar, or it's not very feasible that it's dam min hamakar. So I think you're making a good point. Could it be that the dam snuck under her undergarments and somehow ended up on her leg without contact with her garments? I would say that's very far out.
But if the clothing isn't white, already a different color, then you're not gonna be able to tell. So that might be. that
I
you
see
can't
what you're saying.
tell. So then, yeah.
You accept that, Ruben?
Oh, right, like, if this is.
Let's say she has black pants,
Right,
so
during-
I don't see the down
Right,
on the
during
pants.
Shiva Dikian, they should wear,
Right, okay, yeah, I don't know. Even that look, I think that you could be a little lenient on, if necessary. Let's say you have a woman who's having problems with discharges and stuff, like really difficult to be entire her, then I think they'll. But again, well, that's going to come up later on. I don't know. But I'm just saying, from a perspective of evidence, I think Steve is right that, you're saying, well, why doesn't she find any dam on her undergarments? The answer is because they're black and she can't even see the dam. Okay, now we're up to Nizdikra Ha'isha, which I think means that she stood upright vertically. Let's see what he says in the note. What is it? Kuf Tzadi?
Yeah.
Rambam, Visram Yishonim, Yusuf Nitzake. Afilu min hachagor u'lamalat. Maybe this is addressing your question. Nimtza kes. No, on the contrary, you're saying that the logic is just the opposite. She only finds it on her basar, then she should be tahora. What does the Rambam mean? That she's tameh. V'rayvid v'rashba hisu dafka im nizdak. Again, the Rambam says, Nimtza hakesem al besara bilvad. Filu min hachagor l'malat tameh. Do I have a Rambam here? Let me just take a minute. Rambam. We're missing something. Not funny. Probably relocated the Rambam. Okay. Yeah. We're missing something here in this Rambam. Because the Rambam is saying she only found it on her basar. It doesn't matter where on her body she found it. That doesn't make any bit of sense. Dafka in maybe Nizdakra means just the opposite, that she lies down. I'm going to have to check this out, because otherwise, trouble here. I thought Nizdakra means that she stands up. But now we're saying that she's Tmeya, and the Rambam says even though even though it's minachagor lamala tmeya. What does that mean? If it's only, why should she be tmeya? Zakra isha tmeya af im nimtza dam lamala milson shoshin is zakra yachal laval dam and amok. Yeah, I think nizdakra means that she reclines. Are you willing to accept that? Unfortunately, I don't have here or my knee. I could maybe take a minute and do Google on this. Should I do that?
Are you looking in the notion by Rambam?
Yeah, this is, this actually, well, the Rambam doesn't have 6 starim. It's called Kedusha.
That's it.
There are 14 books of the Rambam. We're looking at Kedusha. But I just want to know what the word Nizdakra means. I think you could ask Google, no?
It means to stand up.
It means to stand up. So why is she Tmei? I can't understand it.
But doesn't he just not have that word as Dapper? Doesn't the Rambam use that? He says it.
Well, let's just read the text that we getting back to Rambam. Just how do we interpret our paragraph? It says Nizdakra Isha Tmea Afin Nimtza Dam B'Bisar Lamala Miltzimok. Why would the fact that she stands up shoot the dam to the top part of her body? I'm missing the physics of it. Oh, he writes, Shoshet is Dakra, or Yochel Lovo Lisham Dam Min Amokar. Imagine a woman is sitting down and all of a sudden she stands up. Does that make sense that now the dam would go above the what we call the Chagar? I don't know. There's something missing here. Das Kamar Rishonim she'af ben Zakra ein tmeim rak haksomim shebibsara ach haksom shebegadel lemala min hachador tahorim af ben Zakra mishum she'im dam migufa vayitzarech lintov gam al bisara. This Ruben is just the flip side of what you were saying before. Not the flip side. He's saying that how could it be that she's only finding dam on her begodim and not on her body? It came out of her body to the begodim. So why is her body clean? You see what he says here? Tahorim af ben izdakra mishum she'im dam zeba migufa hitzarach lintov kama al ha basar. That's interesting. It's like the other side of what you were saying before, that if she finds dam on her basar, how come she didn't find dam on her begodim? Here he's saying the exact reverse. How can she find dam on begodim unless it, without finding it on the basar? It came from the basar to the begodim. It's really interesting. Well, let me just take 1 minute. I know it's, what do I do here? I do minimize, right? You cannot minimize Zoom at this point. Okay. So what do? I do it on my phone. All right, okay, it's too complicated.
And we come to think that back then, like we're today, the undergarments when men wear it are closer fitting. They're looser.
In our time, they're closer?
Yeah.
In those times, it was looser fitting.
So it's more likely that Likely.
that if she saw dam on the beged.
Not on.
Oh, right, but he's talking about the opposite, which he found it on the garments and not on the body. I mean, the second half. In the first half, he's saying,
Maybe the beggar didn't wipe this from the blood. Possible.
yeah. So I'm going to have to come back to this paragraph tomorrow. I'll do a little bit more, I believe, at the research. Let's just see. We have 4 minutes. Let's see. Bebeged ha'ish. Now we find dam on the man's beged. Yesh men achron v'sogim shlo gazru din tzomim el benimtza begufa b'badea achim nitza bebeged ha'ish ein choshen dam bo dam mimena tahora. Wow. I like the first. We're not going to assume that the dam came from her body into his God, which is possible. I mean, especially if they're intimate. But yesh cholkim and say no, we will raise that possibility, likely. He says, "Who pischei tshuva sidrei tara pasach pischei tshuva hevi mamude or." That it's l'chum. Mokum she'enu mekabel tum. Oh, this is very important. Now, both sides here we have to wake up. Nimtza dam al mokum she'enu mekabel tum. Right. For example, karka, which is or anything attached to karka, is not mekabel tum. Let's say she sits down on the ground. And she sees when she gets up, she sits down on the ground. I mean, some question that the dam came from her makar, but she's tahora. Why? Because she didn't have argasha, and lo gazru b'michum kesem. Iskimu chachamim din zeh, ismichu chachamim din zeh, v'nakasav v'nikasa la'oretz teishev. Kevan she'yachva la'oretz is niksa or nikasa. I will say this is further proof that Kesem and the entire Gzeira of Samim is a separate category that works and operates with its own Gedarim, its own. Again, it's got to be that the circumstances indicated came from the Makar, but that itself is not enough to make it into a Kesem. In other words, you can go back and forth. Okay, she found it here, she found it there, on the begodim, on a guf, l'mala min hachagor, l'mata min hachagor. She found it on the feet, but it's tzad achitzon, tzad apnimi, and all. You can keep going on and calculate and use statistical analysis to figure out what the circumstances of it indicate, what the indications are. But even if you know that it came in a makar, it's still tar. Why? Because Ksavim is only a rabbinic institution. She didn't have Argosh. So Minat Torah, she's not Tmeya. So the Rabbanan are going to tell you when she's Tmeya. And they establish she's Tmeya with a Kesem. And it's a din in the Kesem. And now we have to describe what a Kesem is. A Kesem is a beggar that's Makabal Tumah. So I'm just wondering what happens if it's Pachos Migimel Etzpos. Let's see. On that? Because the sheer of Beged L'Kabos Tumah is Gimel Etzpos al Gimel Etzpos. I don't know. I don't see anything on that. Another question that I have to leave for further investigation. Yesh min harishonim hasover shedin zeh shonim machlokas hasugus halachat meya af bekesem nitzpok tema kabotum v'shar rishonim cholk. So there's a Ravid Shita that even if the kesem is found on a davar she'eino makabel tumah, nevertheless she's tmeya. But all the Rishonim paskin, like one opinion in the Gemara in Niddah Daf Samach Amid Beis, which is that of Rabbi Nechemiah, The Rambam passes like Rav Nechemia, the Ramban, the Baal Hamor, the Rashba, the Ran. They all passing like Rabbi Nachem. So you need a Dover HaMakabel. Okay, so that's going to lead us to page Yud Beis for tomorrow, correct? And that's the latest that we have
Yeah, you're facing.
in the photo, in the what's it called, in the email. So let me make a note that this is where we've been up to. But you still have to figure out what Nizdakra Ha'isha. Okay then? So hopefully we'll be smarter tomorrow. Now